Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Summer Proving Grounds, round number 2, losers bracket matchup between Resolve and AOE. I'm Mazel, joined by Joshi yet again. And what an insane first game we had on our hands. I'm going to let you take it away after that one.
Honestly, we got to see all kinds of things highlighted during this game, right? We got to see people trying to gank for RBM rather than the other way around, right? Like here's Zyko up in the top lane that already kind of set the pace for how a lot of this game was going to go. We were looking at this, we were highlighting that RBM is not necessarily the one who ganks for his laners, but instead allows his laners to gank him to try and shut down the enemy jungler, whereas Fnatic, much more selfless, right? He's able to move around, he's looking to set things up for the other side of the map, and we saw him actually look to dive bottom lane like 3-4 times just because he was always looking to proactively set things up in order to get Resolve ahead.
And, you know, that early proactivity was huge, but Resolve were able to respond, as we saw in that one. A little bit of miscommunication, I feel like, with AOE. Ended up in 2 early kills for Resolve. This was a good bounce back for AOE when they were able to get top lane pressure. But from then on, it just felt like Resolve had a grip of the map and didn't let go.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to the fact that AoE weren't necessarily respecting the tools that Resolve did have, right? We already highlighted they really only have Chain of Corruption as an easy way for them to get these fights started, right? Death Sentence is not bad, but doesn't have the same kind of AoE implications, haha, get it, because AoE, as like the Chain of Corruptions does. And a lot of times we were seeing people stand on top of shockwaves, get themselves in spots where Gnar could just jump on them individually, and I kind of have to highlight RBM here as one of the prime ways that Resolve was able to find advantages. They kept finding him in unfortunate positions and at the worst times. It feels like every time RBM died, it resulted in a major objective going in favor of Resolve.
And which is not representative of what RBM has shown us to this point, right? This guy has been a crucial piece to the puzzle for AOE in the way that they're really able to find wins. It is off the back of RBM. Like you said, they play around him. And to have this kind of performance to kick us off is not the way you want to start it off. So I'm expecting a big bounce back from RBM. He is not the type of player just go quietly into the night, especially against Fnatic. I feel like this second game is going to be a real telltale tale for him.
I have to like call back to what I first remember hearing about RBM a long time ago, right? One of the things that we originally saw was there was a point in which he was like, I'm not sure I want to continue playing amateur, right? But the thing that drove him to continue playing was I want to hear Captain Flowers say really big meme on broadcast in order to refer to me. And now he's continuing to play here in Proving Grounds months later. And I feel like that's the kind of mentality that you have to have as these kind of players. Like, no, I just want them to be shouting my name in highlights. So Lennon, he's going to be looking for some way to get the RBM coming out from you later today. And that's what he needs to do in order to continue playing this tournament.
Indeed. And that's what I love about both these stories, right? Both teams are striving for views, for being seen, right? Being shown how good they are to the audience, to the scouts, to everybody who's watching, to make it to that next level. Every single one of these players just about wants to get to that academy level. It's one of the things that comes up in conversation every single time. To go out 2-0 in your knockout match is not the way, right? And we know that AOE are not going to let that go down. And that being said, I want to transition that into this conversation where this is potentially AOE's last match in Proving Grounds, right? If Resolve can come out and prove how strong they've been in the late game and secure that second win, AOE's done. They're not going to be able to show these scouts any longer.
That's a pretty big downside, right? But I feel like they've also kind of made a name. A lot of the players, again, we talked to them earlier saying that they weren't necessarily satisfied with how they've been performing thus far, and this is the opportunity to strike it back, right? This could be their last opportunity to do so. You have to find ways to exploit some of Resolve's early game, and we saw that Resolve had very good ways to stifle a lot of the plays that AoE was looking to make top lane. Maybe you switch up the play, you look bottom lane, try and attack the fact that if Winter's going to be top side so much, that means he's not bottom lane, right?
Yeah.
Go kill a right.
Exactly. Change up that gameplay just a little bit. Something that isn't going to be changing, we can dive into that a little bit more, is the fact that AoE are going to stay on blue side. So we get to talk about that a little bit more, and the fact that they feel comfortable on that side. They feel like they can get picks that excel for them. And I want to see mostly what RBM is going to be looking at here, because as I said before, right, like, and I hate to put more onus on it, but this guy is the star of the team. And yes, there are other pieces that really show out and can help, but it's what you can get for RBM and how that kind of succeeds for him. We'll have to see on the other side of this break, though, Joshi. We're going to send it to a short little ad break, but we'll be right back with draft for game number 2 of this best of 3. Welcome back, everyone. Now the time that we've been waiting for. We're going to be diving straight into the drafts, the picks and bans for game number 2, a deciding match in this best of 3 series between Resolve and AOE Esports.
Honestly, I'm really excited to see what it is that AOE is going to be doing. We saw a lot of pieces that worked well individually, but didn't necessarily come together for the game that they were looking to actually find up against Resolve, and I feel like a lot of it can be chalked up to execution issues, and I'm curious to see if AOE would just want to run it back.
Hey, running it back can work out if you get some of those executions down earlier on. Still a little worried about the overall team fight that Resolve was able to put together with their composition, so I think that's something we got to look out for, as those objectives came few and far between for AOE, except for that last moment where they were able to take 2 back-to-back. But now we got to talk about these bans. We have TF, Ziggs banned away against APA, huge bans against them. On the other side, more mid lane bans in the Rise and the LeBlanc.
I also have to note that it was Sketch Streams that was playing the Ziggs last time around, so AOE are taking that away, and I know the members of Resolve were kind of saying that Sketch Streams is one of the scarier members of the team on AOE, a lot of individually mechanically talented players, but now that he's off the Ziggs, he's going to have an opportunity to show off a little bit more of the mechanics that we know a lot of these marksman players for, because they're actually going to be auto-attack.
Yeah, for once we actually get that. I gotta say, it makes my heart happy as an ADC main. Just stick true and strong. Anyways, we do have first pick coming up for AOE. There's a lot left on the table here because of the bans we see. It is actually going to be the Thresh scooped away from Resolve this time around.
Yeah, and we have to note that this is the Renekton pre-nerf, right? It's not going to get the really shortened stun duration on the empowered stun, so it does mean that it is going to be much more playable, especially in the competitive scene, than it is in solo queue, and instead, they're going to be pivoting very heavily. This is Fnatic's other most played jungler, with Trindle also being up there, and again, he plays it in a much more supportive way, not the full-on tank like I believe SOFM has done historically, but definitely going to be much more focused on getting other members of the team set up.
Yeah, and sticking to comfort, right, for the side of Resolve, they're able to get the Varus as well for Array.
Wow.
There's their a little bit of auto-attacking there. Insta lock-in as the Jinx comes in, as well as the Azir.
That was a very fast couple of picks coming through from Area of Effect, and they are both very long-range auto-attackers, right? You have both the Jinx and the Azir. Hold on, he hasn't locked it in yet.
I've casted APA for a lot of games, right? And I gotta say, I've seen a huge percentage of his Aurelion Souls. It feels like almost every time I cast, I at least get to see it once. So I'm hoping maybe it makes its way through here. But PCL is gonna be picking up the Camille this time around, taking the other side of the matchup.
Yeah, it's not too late. It's still possible if we go to game 3, and it could even be picked up here if AoE don't ban it away, but the Galio taken away, and remember, Resolve need to find ways to actually get to the backline of AoE. Jinx Azir is very difficult to deal with for a lot of teams, just because of how much range it's actually playing with, and Camille Galio, one of the classic combinations. There's a lot of other tools that you can kind of pick up, but they're kind of hard to pick from the mid lane, especially with APA's champion pool.
Yeah, they definitely are. That's where everything gets scary. And that's one of the things that I loved about Dark Wings is, like, the guy's got an interesting champion pool, because when I was talking about how that APA matchup is going to feel out for him, didn't really have any other thoughts beside that, and that he was going to win. So, hey, here's the time for you to show up as the Azir, something you've been able, to pilot a decent amount through Proving Grounds, getting a little bit of comfort for yourself. So I want to talk about some of these bans, though, in the second phase. Did you see the Ornn and the Renekton banned away by Resolve? It is the Xerath and Galio banned away by AoE. Some niche picks coming off the board. And Syndra is the lock-in for Resolve.
I do like the Syndra, simply because it is able to kind of bully the Azir a little bit early on, but it does have a significant range disadvantage, so it relies on playing in the Fog of War a bit later. And while it does have some great teamfight tools if you get the ultimate into the Scatter of the Weak, it's not necessarily always going to have access to Jinx and the Azir. And so the Jarvan coming through, while it's not typically one of my favorite champions, it definitely creates a lot of barriers from Resolve, where if they can't ever threaten the Jinx and Azir, it kind of doesn't matter if the Jarvan just goes in and dies, because he's already done his job. So I really like it here in this composition specifically.
There's going to be a very split line for the side of Resolve. You got the one side, the people who can get out of the Cataclysm. On the other side, the people who cannot move out of the Cataclysm without a flash. I like it. We'll see. It is the Shen locked in for AoE. They've got such good setup for themselves here, But something else that I want to talk about a little bit more is this setup for Resolve, where they're going to look for this last pick and what kind of buffering are they going to give themselves, because they don't necessarily have a lot of that besides the Dragon Rage kick from PCL or from Fnatic.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
There
They
you
do
go.
now
There
have
we
the
go.
Rakan, and when they hovered the Braum, I was like, oh no, that's going to be really hard to actually do anything with. But the Rakan is going to have the tools necessary to actually get into the backline, and suddenly all the tools from Resolve seem like they've come together. You have a number of divers, you have a number of people who are going to be doing damage, and AOE doesn't have a really credible backline threat, right? Like Jarvan goes in, he locks a bunch of people down, but Jarvan and Shen, if they get ahead, they can be big threats to both the Syndra and the Varus, but these two backliners together kite together so well. They have stuns, they have roots, they have damage, they have a lot that they can use to keep Shen and Jarvan at bay. So after the Cataclysm goes down, that's really about it. You got to get them in the initial burst, because if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult for AoE to actually threaten Resolve's backline.
And I'm so interested in this draft from AoE. Coming from a lot of the players, right? It's a lot about, who shows up on the day. There's no real big, huge gaps between the two. It's draft and who shows up, right? This time around, I feel like AoE are going a little bit away from their tried and true. RBM on the J4. Yes, you can get Snowball. You can get really strong as a J4, but it's more of a supportive pick for the Azir and for the Jinx. So they're putting all their eggs into the carry basket of Dark Wings and Sketch They got to lay it all on the line here.
I play a lot with my good buddy Mark Rafa Alexander Arambide, or however, whatever order he wants to say all of his minion names. And then I got another good friend, Utility Monster. They are both big connoisseurs of the Lethality Jarvan, which will have a lot of credible backline threat, but we'll see if RBM wants to go for that and instead just go for the more traditional Gore Drinker Sterix in order to keep himself alive for a long period of time. But I think we are in for one crazy violent game between these two teams, and we saw a lot of violence last game. This one's going to turn it up to 11.
And hey, he went with the lethality Graves last time around too. So we'll see what happens. We do got to step away for a little break while we get loaded onto Summoner's Rift. Do not touch that browser. Resolve versus AoE, game number 2 up next. Into Summoner's Rift we go. One of these teams with their backs up against the wall. AoE threatened by Resolve to be kicked out of the Proving Grounds. This is the moment. You've got to extend the series. Resolve versus AoE. Game number 2 starts now.
We're seeing a very different opening from this one, Lennon. We're not seeing AoE going for this crazy topside play. Instead, just scouting out, going to try and get some vision down. And I mean, you have to pay attention to the fact that RBM doesn't really actually have a single ability at level 1, right? He's got an attack speed buff that does like 50 damage, maybe, if we're being generous. He doesn't really have a strong level 1, so he can't really be super aggressive. And right as I say that, I mean, he's poking out Fnatic a little bit. It's going to take some damage right in return, and both of them probably just going to place a ward and call it quits.
I love that the first part that we're getting is this mid lane tussle. Both games already, AoE has been looking for those early advantages. Didn't come to fruition last time around. This time, get a little bit of poke, but nothing really going to happen. The big thing I do want to point out here is we are getting a bit of a different start this time around. Both junglers are going to be starting on the top side of the map, maybe potentially looking and setting their eyes towards the bot.
Very true. We are going to be seeing both of the junglers. It looks like PCL got to see that Faisal and RBM are here on the blue buff, and of course, Fnatic is visible on that ward up in the top side. So both these junglers know exactly where the other one is, and it does mean that we are potentially in a situation, as you said, where we're going to get a scuffle in the bottom half of the map here in about a minute and a half. But Fnatic already cheating towards the bottom side, skipping his top lane camps.
That's something that's super important here, and I always love to see how unique these paths can get with the Lee Sin, and especially Fnatic here piloting it. One of RBM's main champions, right? Something we've seen RBM perform so many times on, and he's taking it this time around. He's piloting the champion. We'll see if he can get this bot lane dive off as well, or at least gank off early. But what is the response from RBM? How do you see that aggression? Because last game, he was taking invades constantly when he could, and every time they had map at least vision on Fnatic, he was looking for something else. Does that change here on the Jarvan, and how do we see him adapt to this playstyle?
We're already seeing that Fnatic coming down here. Winter does have his ward cleared out, and there's also a ward in the river. So typical gank timings will sometimes come in around the 3-minute mark, where most of the time you start looking for these big ganks, and a little bit later if they're going to be full clearing. But Fnatic already kind of warded out. They have a good idea of where he is, and so it just turns into this kind of inefficient jungle path where he will clear his bottom side of the map and then probably look to pick up the top lane crab where PCL has the priority.
And it's all about adapting in the moment, right? And like making sure that you're not giving away those early advantages. But if you make a call that doesn't work out, trying to recoup as much as you can. Here, it looks like he's going to try to recoup towards mid lane as Fnatic is hovering over. And he's behind Darkwings. You do have RBM over that way as well. We're getting a little tussle in mid lane, 2v2 action. Darkwings going to be able to get away. No summoner spells burn that time around.
Well, we are going to be seeing kind of a handshake right now between the two junglers going for opposite side crabs because Darkwings doesn't have the tools necessary to actually contest either one of these, but he is also going to be able to teleport back into lane, and so we might just be seeing another 2v2.
More 2v2 action, bring it on. Here's RBM going for those aggressive invades, but he will find nothing in Fnatic's blue side jungle. Some of that inefficient pathing works out for Fnatic.
There it is, yeah. Fnatic is able to pick up his top side camps right now, and another hook. So much fighting bottom lane.
There is a lot of poke damage down, but Zyko is able to get out with, or get Sketch Dreams out with that Dark Passage. Nicely done, and that's why, you know, a crucial piece to resolve success in game one was the Thresh, and AOE picked up first pick.
I also want to highlight something that we do have to touch on up in the top lane, right? This is a matchup that is typically a little bit Shen favored due to the interaction between Spirit's Refuge and Camille's Q, right? Where you get the enhanced auto attack is completely dodged by Shen's W. And so right now we are actually seeing that PCL kind of respecting that and not looking to play for the lane, for the 2v2 quite as much. He doesn't have the Ignite, so he has a flash.
Fnatic is here, but so is RBM. RBM's going for the lane
Ignite.
gank
Oh
here.
God.
They don't know he's here. Faisal, he almost gets hit by the Sonic Wave, but does not. It is so close up here. We're so bound to get action. And PCL, he's going to get out with a flash. Faisal thought he had him.
Man, this is huge. PCL pushed off once again. He's going to lose out quite a bit of this. Going to be forced to teleport back into lane. AOE punishing this top side once again in this game. Now, I do want to point out the difference, right? We just got done talking about Flash versus Ignite on this champion. He would have died there if he had Ignite.
Yep, he definitely would have. RBM has found APA in the mid lane, though. He's going to have Darkwings joining soon. Scatter the Weak comes out, stun up there, but Darkwings isn't there in time. Can't get APA down. Fnatic and RBM are just like shadowing each other this entire game. Everywhere one of them shows up, the other is sure to follow.
And we have to say, Fnatic unfortunately has been missing these cues, right? It's just a situation where if he starts landing some of these Sonic Waves, he becomes a lot more threatening instead. If both Jarvan and Lee Sin just sit there and farming, Jarvan's going to be very happy with this situation. So the fact that Jarvan has had a little bit more impact on the map and he's staying abreast of Lee Sin in terms of actually being able to farm, AOE are pretty happy with at least that jungle matchup. They are also in a spot where they have to be careful because we're going to get very explosive mid games, but at least Jarvan's happy.
Yeah, at least Jarvan's happy. RBM going to be smiling over there, at least for the moment. We do have Dragon spawned up onto the Rift. It is a Cloud Dragon to kick us off. Maybe a little bit difference in the priority we see around those objectives this time around. Resolve, we're already ticking away at making sure they have the priority for Dragon last time around. This time, it does look like AOE are going to take that priority, having brought RBM back down towards the bot lane. But Fnatic is here as well. Nice hook hit Winter. It's dropped down about half health. RBM was ready to pull the trigger.
RBM doesn't quite have level 6 yet, but he can look for a potential dive. Faisal has his ultimate, and he is getting a push in.
He is, and you see Fnatic has already roamed away. He's actually pathing back down this way because he realizes what could be happening. Winter gets dragged out. There's the death sentence, beautifully landed, but Psycho gets taken out for first blood, and Sketchdreams is in some trouble. Array is all alone under tower, but they're gonna turn it! Resolve have taken everything! Dark Wings is gonna go down too eventually, and all you have left is Faisal. Is he gonna be able to pull back anything else? No! It is an almost total ace at the same time. For Resolve, it's 5-1 in kills.
All 5 members of AOE just died in the bottom lane, Lennon. Absolute disaster coming out for Area of Effect. That might be the difference between them continuing to play in this game and the fact that they might be going home. We said that Faisal was trying to get a push in up in the top lane so that he could teleport down, but you know what? He got interrupted, and it makes it even worse in the top lane. He uses ultimate, gets interrupted, goes down with the teleport anyway, dies, gets only an assist, and now they're fighting another kill.
Oh no, Zyko gets caught here. The death sentence isn't going to save you today, neither will the play.
Oh,
a killing spree for Fnatic. This is tragedy for AOE.
Oh god, I mean, just look at how they actually go for this, right? Notice the fact that the Shen ultimate comes through onto Jarvan with this gank, but it doesn't actually complete, right? He gets the shield, and it just is, it's so chaotic. They're not able to really find anything. Zyko was tanking. I think he thought RBM was tanking, and eventually, by committing all 5 members to this fight, they do get Array, but that's really just about it. There's not a whole lot that they're doing. They end up conga lining in one after another, and we praise them for their mechanics, but this is a situation where you just needed the coordination first.
Trying to utilize the team play that is not working out to their fashion this time around, and very unfortunate start for AOE, but if they can get back to a position that they did last game when they did, they can do it again this game. It's only 6-1. It's sub 10 minutes. You've got a lot of work and a lot of mountain to climb for AOE in this game.
All right, well, what is this? Okay, so we got a replay. Zyko, unfortunately, just walks into the wrong neighborhood. And Fnatic, he's been missing a lot of these. Oh, this is fancy. I didn't notice this part earlier. Right, he was missing a lot of the cues initially from Fog of War, but Zyko, he has a flash, but when he gets hit by the ultimate from APA, not a whole lot left to do. So Fnatic showing off a couple of fancy mechanics, and what were they necessary? I don't know. Were they cool? Yeah.
Hey, that's what you play Lee Sin for, right? I mean, of course. I will say during all of that, the Resolve were able to take the Rift Herald, right? So Fnatic does have that under his tool belt. That's a huge moment of pressure for Resolve. They're going to get even more gold off the back of that. And with the amount of kills that Fnatic has had, he's already at his mythic spike now. That is a scary Lee Sin, and RBM knows that. So I don't know if we're necessarily going to see that shadowing that we've seen all game so far because of that lead that Resolve has got.
It will be really scary for RBM to really find any of these fights now. He's so far behind in itemization. And realistically, the top lane is also going to be hurting pretty badly. Normally, again, it's supposed to be Shen favored, but now PCL is well over halfway to his Divine Sunderer, which, better in this game, for what it's worth, is also something that is going to be very difficult for Faisal to try and match, because he is super far from his mythic. He put it off in order to get a Bramble Vest first in order to reduce some of the healing that PCL will be doing when the Divine Sunderer comes through, and also every time you land that W.
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult. Ooh, Winter's on a roam up here. RBM does find the flag and drag against Fnatic, but Fnatic's here, and there's that damage profile we're looking for. Beautiful Cataclysm, and here's all the members of AOE. They've turned it around, and that's going to be 2 quick kills given back over.
It's a counter disaster, right? Fnatic just gets blown up. We saw such a crazy fight, and Darkwing's beautiful usage of the ultimate as well. What more are they going to get? PCL trying to fight with Faisal. RBM can come around now because he knows the hookshot's down.
Oh no, yeah, they decided to stay. You do have Zyko here. I think they've decided better of it. You've got Winter and Fnatic just trudging down the lane, trying to get here quick enough. RBM's going to complete his bag. Zyko is going to stay. You got to expect AOE are going to pull off of this after getting back a little bit of something.
They are. They're still down 2,000 gold. We do have to remember that they are in a not winning position. But that was a big morale booster that they really needed. So I really want to highlight how Darkwings actually plays through this fight, right? Because it's a little bit chaotic. Fnatic gets jumped on. There's a, control, crowd control back and forth. But Darkwings coming through. He sees all 3 members here. And the timing on this ultimate after the Camille not only unlocks him so he's not locked in place, but catches all three members, puts them all on top of each other, and it's a ton of damage he's able to do to everybody all at once. And it is going to get traded for a kill's worth of gold in the top half from Fnatic's Rift Herald, but big plays coming out from Darkwings, now rivaling Fnatic's ability to just generate gold on the map.
And that Azir is huge for the setups. When you're trying to contest objectives, when you're trying to fight at all in these team fights, that Azir is going to be absolutely crucial, and especially Darkwings on the Azir. This guy has had such comfort on the pick. He's found so many insane moments on the Azir. This is a moment to show some more of those, and it's going to start coming up here. You've got to expect some more tussling going to come down. Resolve are going to try to force some of the hand of AOE here because of that small advantage they've been able to accrue for themselves. Oh, Darkwings tried to go for it. He gets dropped back. You thought you had the Emperor's Divide, but Darkwings survives for just a moment to get taken down by Fnatic. The rest of AOE are just going to be taken out by Fnatic as well. That's a double kill again for the Lee Sin. This guy is unstoppable right now, Toshi.
There are not close fights in this game, Lennon. That's the third blowout fight in a row that we've had. There's a blowout bottom, there's a blowout top, there's a blowout mid, and now, oh gosh, Sketchstreams, can he live?
Sketchstreams! Oh, the traps! Oh my god, Sketchstreams! You're
Rocket?
a monster! He doesn't hit the Mega Death Rocket, but I don't care. You get those all day long.
That
Heck
was
of a play from Sketchstream.
very impressive, right? The double traps keeps him alive, and he almost gets the kill onto Winter, but it's still going to be him getting pushed in array. Might be overstepping a little bit here now that Zyko is walking up, but without the Death Rocket, it's going to be a lot harder to do anything on the map. So, I mean, we've been seeing good plays from both teams, but as APA said, it's whoever shows up on the day. Darkwings goes for a bold play here, and unfortunately, just misses. I mean, that's really about it.
He crosses so much distance. Like,
Yeah.
through his dash plus the kick, and then the flash after. The fact that he's able to still get the Emperor's Divide off is pretty impressive, but it just brings Fnatic where he wanted to be.
Yeah, and again, because both these teams are kind of jumping on top of each other, and there's like this big
Oh, the
situation.
Cataclysm!
Yeah, where you just stack all of your members right in one spot. Both teams are very happy to just AoE the other one down, so it's so far it's kind of been whoever's starting the fight is losing because you are stacking too much on top of each other, and we'll see if that continues to be a trend throughout this game. Resolve did pick up the first dragon as well.
They did, so very good objective control again from Resolve here in this second game. They already do have pings coming down onto the Rift Herald. This would be Rift Herald number 2 for them. It does feel like it's a tried and true objective for them as they've developed such a lead with Fnatic. He can kind of just show up in places and not be answered to, really. RBM is scouting around the bot lane, potentially looking for a play onto Array, but it will be that objective going over yet again to Resolve.
I also want to point out something that's kind of funny, maybe only to me, but the inventories of Fnatic and RBM are very similar, right? You have a Phage, you have the plated steel caps, and you have the Iron Spike Whip and Iron Spike Whip's daddy, right? The whole Gore Drinker.
Very true.
This is not
He's
close.
something to aspire to, right? Something to look up to. RBM actually gets caught in the aggression there. I do still like this though. It's how AoE have found leads for RBM in the past, right? That aggressive invade style, and still looking for those even when you're in the deficit. Because we saw last game, there's so many moments where you can pull back little kills, little catch-outs, and it completely changes the name of the fight. But this time around, it's just so difficult to really find anything. The jungle is sparingly available to RBM, and now he's got top lane pushing, he's got mid lane pushing, and Resolve just looking to set up play.
Resolve going to be dropping this Rift Herald in the mid lane, and Zyko is going to be forced to stay, but I don't think he's going to be able to defend this. Okay, yeah, now the Rift Herald is in fact closer to the turret. It does technically less damage, so it is going to stay alive for a second, but he's going to force the flash.
Oh my god! Without the Dark Passage shield, he's dead, 100%. The Rift Herald does get the tower as well, so big stuff from Resolve. They're going to unleash the pressure of the mid lane there. Now they just got to work on bot lane tower.
See how they choose to go about it. There's a lot of ways. You could teleport PCL down, you can just go for a die with Fnatic, you can rotate people around because there's another dragon coming up soon, but PCL likely going to be up top lane. He is at a spot now where this matchup is starting to get a lot better for the Camille, right? He's got a lot more true damage, and it's on Alone of cooldown that the Spirit's Refuge is not up for both the first time you try and do it and the second time that you try and do it. So Faisal going to be in a very tough spot, and it's not fun to play Shen when behind because you don't have a lot of agency over when things happen. You're more like, no, you go, I follow you. I'm on top of you, but you have to do it first.
Yeah, and that's something that communication needs to take a leap up from game number 1 for AOE for that to work, right? And that's something I find interesting with this comp that AOE have drafted for themselves, is they are seemingly indexing more into that communication, right? They have a lot more moving pieces that need to be communicated on and let know of for the whole team, right? And I think it's working out to an extent for them so far, except for that early tussle. But I think if you didn't have that crazy 5-kill lead for Resolve in the beginning, I think the story would be a bit different here for AOE in the way that they've set up their composition.
Yeah, I think it's also worth kind of looking at how these teams are playing, right? I feel like as we start looking at the twilight of AOE, it's time to celebrate them a little bit before this game is over. And it's not over, but it is looking grim at this point. And I really feel like I want to continue to pay attention to how these guys have grown, right? A lot of these players were not recognizable when the year first started, right? So the fact that people like RBM, Darkwing, Sketchstream, Zyko, and Faisal are all now here at Proving Grounds, now that they are in a situation where they've done super respectably for a team of rookies. It's something that you have to be paying attention to. They've all been working really hard. They've all been trying to build up their opportunities. Unfortunately, they're getting cut.
Yeah, Faisal's going to be taken out, but I completely agree, right? And Resolve is not allowing them to really show that off here in this one, right? You've got to think about the story that has come from AOE, and especially the likes of, we can laud every single one of these players. They've all shown up in their own fashions, right? But that Darkwings RBM duo is so huge and have become staples in amateur in their own right, where you see that a lot of the times on the other side with Resolve, where they have a lot of tried names in amateur who have shown up, who have done some serious work here and are showing themselves up on the day. And right, and that all leads back to what APA said, showing up on the day. It doesn't matter. All the competition is so close, but who can have the right mindset here today and now? And today it's Resolve.
Yeah, and I also want to give a quick quote from the owner. We'll get to that as soon as Sketchstreams dies.
Oh no, Sketchstreams. The shield bow gives him a lot of time. You also got the Stand United, Joshi. Okay. He's not out just yet. You were saying eulogies, but the man survives. A lot used to make that happen. But hey, the precedent is safe.
He is safe right now, right? This is the player that a lot of Resolve people were giving props to, even over people like RBM and Darkwings. But to quote AOE Riley, the owner of the organization, just like, these guys, they're funny, committed, hardworking people. They care about each other's growth, the org, and hell, they even supported our developing players last night on stream, right? The fact that these guys are actually playing, almost like a family, right? It's not just the AOE people, but the fact that they care about the brand that they're building, they care about the organization is something that, is important. Your players need to be recognizable, and I feel like AOE are well on the way to doing that first step.
Good culture in the amateur scene is very hard to come by, and if you can start making steps to having a good ingrained culture in an organization, it is huge. We've seen those kinds of successes come from the top down, right? Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, all these teams that have invested into a structure for themselves and that culture, it brings so much to the table. And to see it budding like this from AOE is so awesome. But we got to get back to the brass tacks of it here. They've got to find a way back into the game. We've already set up so many times, Joshi. This is it. Resolve have them on the ropes. If they do not win here, they are out of the proving grounds. So how do they come back into this? Where do they find those advantages?
Their team composition strengths are still the same as what they were from draft. It is difficult for Resolve to always get on top of both Azir and Jinx, and either one of them might have the damage necessary to actually carry a single fight if Rakan and Lee Sin and Camille can't get to them. The problem is the tools that they need in order to buy space for either of these players are rapidly disappearing. Jarvan's not strong enough to stand up for very long. The Shen ultimate has been interrupted multiple times. He doesn't even have a completed mythic now at 21 minutes. And the Thresh, he's doing his best, but he also doesn't have a full item. They're just so far behind that if they could ever find a situation where Darkwings and Sketchstreams can free hit, they can win, but those situations are becoming harder and harder to find.
and the timer starts ticking, right? The same thing as last time. It's not as quick this time around, but that objective control is super strong by Resolve. They're already on 2 dragons, another one in 2.5 minutes. They're moving around the Baron pit right now as well to force AoE's hand. And this is where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place for AoE. You're not strong enough to fight these fights, but if you continue to lose these objectives, you just bleed out the game all the same.
Okay. Resolve are hitting this Baron. They know it is on vision, but they're committing to it anyway. No Ocean Dragon.
TP for PCL from the base.
Aggressive. Oh,
he's TPing in on behind. They want to go for it. Fnatic tries for the kick, but can't find it. Sketchstreams gets the heroic entrance, or at least Stand United used on him. That's already Darkwing's down. RBM goes on the back line. This is split everywhere. Fnatic is dead. Can this be where AoE turn it around? No, the Scat of the Week shuts them down. Winter with the double knockup, and they've got too much damage to deal with. Luckily, Sketchstreams is there to stop the slaughter, but it's still Resolve who come out on top.
We saw hints of what AoE's composition is supposed to do, and if they were a little bit stronger, that would have been a winning fight for AoE. Unfortunately, they're just too far behind right now. We saw Resolve forcing really, really hard in order to get this fight happen, and they end up coming out technically ahead in kills, but I imagine probably behind due to the bounty that Fnatic actually had. So we kind of get a reset, and now Resolve continue to move forward. We got a dragon in a minute, and with a bunch of flashes down on members of AoE, Resolve is going to have a much easier time actually finding a winning fight next time.
And it's going to be a little bit more difficult to approach these fights for AoE. You see they're already trying to get priority in the bot lane, but PCL's there and ready to go to keep the pressure up. AoE want to make a move down here onto the split pusher, but they're just trying to set up around this dragon. You've got Stand United not available for Faisal. He does have TP, but it's going to take time for them to join the fight. PCL almost gets dropped by Darkwings. There's a decent amount of damage right now with this Azir. You already see Fnatic ready to go for this dragon spawn in 25 seconds. They've still got so much time to play with.
The fact that the mid lane turret is down on the AoE side of the map just makes it so much easier for Resolve to get that prio there. It doesn't bounce off the way. Winter?
He saw Sketchstreams for like a millisecond. Was like, nope, we're going. Oh, there's the Cataclysm onto Array, but RBM is just gone. He poofed out of nowhere. PCL almost gets Darkwings. That's going to be the Sonic that does not hit, as it will hit onto the Dragon, and Resolve turn right back to their objective. The thing they wanted the whole time. It's the Dragon's sole point. Resolve.
Again, it looks like a situation where the members of AoE looking for these mechanical plays, but they're not necessarily doing it in the same kind of coordinated fashion that Resolve do. Resolve play around geography on the map so well, and we're seeing that once again. They knew that Darkwing was too far away, Sketchstreams was too far away to actually participate in the fight, and it results in Resolve finding an easy pick into a dragon, and they were threatening the Baron. Unfortunately, they don't feel strong enough to do it just quite yet. They want to go home and spend their gold, but AoE, again, it's getting harder and harder for them to manufacture these fights. The ultimate wasn't there. And AoE, you need to find something soon before the game is over.
You know, the fact that you're talking about AoE trying to find something, right, that's all important. I think that Resolve here has showed something really interesting to me across these last 2 games in the willingness that they have to start Baron, but not do it, right? We've seen so many times where they just start it up, but then somebody in the call is like, okay, guys, we're pulling off. And they all pull off, which is good and bad in its own right? It shows that communication. It shows they're all on the same page to an extent, but some of the starts are a little sketchy, I feel like.
I like the willingness to just kind of hit it, right? Because there's a lot of times at this level of play where the other team just doesn't come, right? They don't check. And you end up just getting some free Barons because of it. Now AoE are fully in a position where they can respond to the Baron, so obviously Resolve can't do it right now. But they also have APA split pushing because nobody can actually match the amount of damage he's able to put out.
They cannot. You see a lot of movement around this mid lane.
Seen this before.
They get a catch out here. Yeah, it's not looking good. Big Emperor's Divide back. RBM gets out. Death Sentence lands. They've actually found Array. They also found Winter, but they don't get him down just in time. It's still Fnatic you got to worry about, and PCL's making hell for your backline. Sketchstreams, Shield Bow is popped, but he is down. That's also Psycho going into his death, and Faisal's the last one. This is an ace potentially for Resolve, but they back off of Faisal, say we'll leave one alive to tail the tail.
AOE, they're trying so hard to manufacture these fights, but they're over diving. We're seeing that we need to create space for Darklings and Sketch Streams, but they're not actually able to hit, and instead, you just end up throwing Jarvan away. So now PCL, Fnatic, and APA going to be hitting the Baron. Faisal can't do anything about it. He's just going to be backing away, trying to clear out some of these minions before Resolve are able to use them to crash into the turret. Wait a second. He's just late.
Darkwing's TPing in as well with Faisal. The Baron's already gone. Just bringing bodies out onto the map. Here's a replay of what happened.
Watch where Darkwings and Sketch Streams are during this whole fight, right? I respect the attempt coming in from RBM. He knows he needs to find a fight while Cinder isn't there, try and win it quickly. But Darkwings is just now hitting. Sketch Stream still hasn't auto-attacked in this fight a single time. The Rocket doesn't do enough, and unfortunately, by the time Sketch Streams is able to start hitting, Darkwings is effectively already dead. If this fight had gone a little bit more in their favor, if the geography was a situation where they could get their members to hit, it might have been a winning fight. Unfortunately, they don't do the first couple of steps, they skip them, and it just means that Resolve are going to be able to hit them with their wallets for a Team 5 victory.
And I feel like in the past, right, RBM pulls a trigger like that, and they're able to get it, right? They find the pick onto Array, everybody follows up, and they can do it. It's just not happening today. We've seen so many times today where AOE are pulling triggers on fights, but there's no follow-up there, and that's something that Resolve have been able to take advantage of.
It feels really, really difficult because the game plan for all of your characters doesn't change as AOE, right? But just the windows in which you can execute them do. And it feels like RBM, normally he plays for himself. If he was playing like the Kazakhs or something, he might have been able to find these kills without help. As Faisal tries to go for PCL, but he just isn't doing enough damage at this point in the game.
He's pretty strong, though.
He's strong.
I mean, that's pretty scary. PCL backed off of it. That's pretty funny. Oh, wait, the Chains of Corruption. Winter gets the knock-up. Darkwings goes gold, and he's still going to survive. Winter not going to survive this time around. Emperor's Divide, beautifully done, but he's still, after all of that, goes down. And PCL is going to bring in the fight with APA and Array to back him up. Faisal is the next to fall. He doesn't go down just yet. And it's crazy back and forth, but Resolve still come out on top.
Resolve are the ones to pick up a turret, but we saw how effective team fights can be if Sketch Streams can just hit and hit and hit. He was able to get a lot of damage down, almost picked up Fnatic, but it's going to be multiple structures going down in favor of Resolve. They take the top lane inner, they take the mid lane inhibitor turret, and with 15 seconds left before the next dragon actually spawns, RBM might not be able to get there in time. And APA, is he just going to blow up Zyko?
Oh, Zyko does get the death sentence there. Not necessarily the one you want to hit. Piercing Arrow does so much damage to Zyko. Looks like the two carries from Resolve will be able to make it out just in time for the dragon to spawn. This is a Mountain Soul spawning for Resolve.
Resolve, obviously, they like having the soul. In every situation, you prefer to have it than not having it, but it's not quite as impactful in this game, and RBM might try and steal it, but it would be going to his death. The PCL just making sure that can't happen.
He ain't stealing it today. That's the Hextech ultimatum over the side of the wall, and RBM is out of the game yet again.
Feels rough, right? I do want to reach out to the players of AOE, because I do not feel like everything that happened in this game after the very first dive really reflects how they normally play.
At all.
No, I mean, when you give over 5 kills in the first couple of minutes, in a scrim, you're just like, yeah, we're not going to learn anything here, but now they have to play it out.
Oh my god, they got to catch back, though. PCL in some trouble here as well. Winter's dead. You've got the excited Sketch Streams, but is it enough? Faisal, it's so low, nobody can touch Array and APA, and just makes it so damn scary.
Okay, well, they do end up stalling out a little bit further. That's really good, and we are seeing signs of life from AoE, right? But the problem is you got another Baron spawning in about 2 minutes. You have an Elder Dragon spawning in 5, and while we saw last game, AoE were able to find a turnaround and pick up 1 Elder Dragon and 1 Baron back-to-back because of an overreach from Resolve. It's going to be very difficult for them to do that. Resolve have been playing a much more tempered style of game throughout most of this. They haven't necessarily gone for these crazy plays, these overreaches that ended up hurting them last game, and if they can continue doing that, should be a clean victory.
And the confidence that's just resonating from Resolve right now in this series is immense, Joshi. Like, you can just feel it in all of these calls throughout this entire series. They have been pushing the buttons of AoE. They have constantly been keeping up the pressure for a team that we've said likes to wait to the late game, likes to get to the late game, and then start making those decisions. They have not stopped as soon as they've hit Summoner's Rift.
The confidence is so good, right? Winter said they were really struggling when they didn't have the confidence in themselves. And now that they're playing without expectations, now that they're playing with the idea that every single opponent needs to be respected, we're going to take it one game at a time, they're doing quite well. But Sketchstreams now here is potentially at risk of having the other side of the map getting engaged upon because he's just not there to hit. So AOE needs to seed a lot of vision in the top half of the map, and unfortunately it is so dangerous for them to even leave the confines of their base at this point.
Yeah, it's 12,000 gold in the lead for Resolve. They're pushing down the waves. They've got mid and bot pushing with PCL on the side by himself. See how many inhibs they're able to scoop away this time around. It looks like they're going to commit towards bot lane, though. They could still go for this inhib. RPM takes a shot there. Third of his health missing.
Okay, now they're pushing in. They're only the one cannon minion means they're only
Oh my
doing
god,
a little
RPM?
damage. Yeah, a lot of damage right there. They don't get a ton of damage on the bottom lane inhibitor turret, but they do take the mid lane inhibitor. That just means super minions are going to start pouring in and Resolve. They seem very happy to just kind of play this a little bit slowly. They're playing a 3-0-2 kind of split, and I feel like the double solo laners might be strong enough to survive at least the initial burst coming out of AoE, and that might give enough time for the other members of Resolve to pick up any objective they want, and it looks like the objective they want is going to be the Baron.
It is looking like it. That Baron is coming up very, very soon, and they're going to be able to burn it down quickly. You've still got the side lane pushing with APA and PCL, who are going to back away now, but the Baron's already toast, and you cannot leave your base, as you said, as AoE. And this gets back to the point I was talking about earlier. It's so hard from this moment on, right? It's been hard. You've been at a 10+K deficit for a majority of this. But the fact is you can't leave your base, and they have free run over the map.
It feels almost chess-like at this point, right? You just pin all the members of AoE to their turrets to say, hey, you have to defend these, and now because we're faster, we're going to rotate to the other side of the board. We're going to pick up these undefended pieces, in this case the Baron, and now that you just have this material advantage, you can just run down the center. And AoE, they need to find something, but they need to find mistakes coming out from Resolve in order to actually punish it. With the Baron coming up, with the Elder Dragon available in just 2 minutes, feels like AoE are starting to run out of options, and I have to feel like RBM at this point, it's either desperation, where he's going to go for things that he wouldn't necessarily work otherwise, or almost shattered morale, where he doesn't go for things that he'll need to. It's so hard to make these decisions in this kind of position.
And you can see the entire team for AoE is just kind of turtling up, staying together, waiting for where they need to respond to at this point for Resolve, because Resolve are just buying their time, pushing down the waves, making sure everything's set up for them for their momentous victory. But Faisal might get caught out here by PCL, attacking the weak point potentially up here while the other 4 members are going into the base. Faisal, oh my god! You're a tank and you still take that much damage! PCL is taking no prisoners as Faisal's forced to flash away.
He's going to heal up a lot of that too with the Ravenous Hydra in his inventory. Faisal needs to back away, and there's a window here for Resolve to try and do something for Faisal can respond. Yeah, this is going to be the rest of it going down. For it.
This is make or break. This is AoE's hopes and dreams, but they are shattered in front of their very eyes. Resolve, they took everything that AoE threw at them and threw it right back tenfold. Resolve are pushing into the base and are looking to end AoE's Proving Ground season. That is it. They're taking them out. AoE might have taken out the heart of Amateur, but their heart will go on no longer. Resolve, move forward in the loser's bracket.
There you go. Very clean game coming in from Resolve. It had a little bit of twists and turns throughout it, but Resolve never felt like they were not in control of this game. Great game coming through from all of these members. And while the first game was very close and super high octane, the second one felt like the Resolve of old, where they were just able to bully people around, never really allow them to come back, and just threatening them. It's like, hey, we're going to team fight better than you, so you got to find something to do. And unfortunately, AoE were never able to do it.
And that's what's crazy to me is that first game, I still felt like Resolve had a ton of control over that game, even though things were so back and forth and they were going to the brink with AoE. But this second game, as you kind of said, Resolve of old, just the resolve that they showed in this game, in this series in particular, they are a force to be reckoned with.
incredible responsiveness to this play also just results in Resolve getting a 5-for-1 turnaround on this. And remember, like, it's just kind of back and forth. All the members of AOE just kind of go in one at a time and end up dying, right? The coordination difference between these two teams results in Fnatic getting 3 kills and 2 assists basically to start the game. He goes from, I think, level 5 at the beginning of that, he gets level 6, and then he starts making some really cool plays just because he can. And ultimately, when Fnatic is, normally the one who's going to be setting up the rest of his team for these plays, when he's the one who is that far ahead, it becomes very difficult to do anything, because when the enabler is strong, everybody else on your team rapidly becomes so as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Fnatic was definitely that enabler. No matter how many times AOE was looking for the plays, it just did not end up in their favor, especially like a play like this.
I don't know, man. Dark Wings had a great play topside, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get a replay of the highlight that they had for this second game of the day. Instead, just going to be Resolve, going to be barreling down, finding every single kill they can. And it just is brutal to watch, right? When you have such a large gold lead to start, you reset the scrim, but this is a stage game. You have to play it out. You find everything. And I gotta praise Winter as well for a lot of his ability to actually find the backline, disrupt Dark Wings and Sketch Dreams so that he wasn't, or they weren't able to just free hit through a lot of these fights. He was instrumental in allowing people like APA and Array to actually do the damage necessary to win these engagements.
And I know it was already pretty much set and done, but like what solidified Winter there in that one for me was the end where he was able to get the last knock up onto the 2 carries of AOE and just completely end the game right after that. So I think it was all around a great performance from Resolve. They have a lot to look at for that game. Number one, why it went the way it did, why they were overextended and trying to kind of pull that back a little bit. But all in all, Resolve have shown up against one of the rising teams here in the Proving Grounds in AOE. And I got to take a moment and give a huge heartfelt shout out to AOE in totality, right? We talked in the game a little bit about the organization in general, the system that they're trying to develop, the culture that they're trying to develop. It has been stunning to see how much development they've had in this year. And it is absolutely incredible. So hearts out to AOE, not the way you wanted to go out, but a wonderful performance nonetheless throughout the year. Now I do believe we are ready for our interview. I believe we have Fnatic coming over from Resolve. Let's see if we can get him. Fnatic, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Sweet. Oh, man, Fnatic going up against RBM, one of the at least favorite junglers in the Proving Grounds. How does it feel to just have such a dominating performance in both games?
I mean, personally coming to this, I feel like, there's a lot of players been taking shots when I wasn't playing well a month ago, and RBM was one of them. So I came today, and I just wanted to prove a point.
Hey, and you whip out the Lee Sin too in game number 2, take it to him. I love it. Do you have any thoughts about, that series in particular, especially game 1, and kind of the things that you guys can pull away from that game?
I mean, I think in the past, even versus Wildcard Red, I think we just gotta relax in the mid-late game. We get in good scenarios, but then we just start stressing, then we just end, we honestly, we could have lost game 1 if they committed to maybe ending at the Elder. But luckily they did not, so.
So let's take a little look at what some of your other teammates have said, right? AP and Winter have both kind of referred to the fact that a month ago you guys weren't playing quite as well. You didn't have your confidence. What did it take for you guys to get that confidence back and now start having some incredible performances against a bunch of other Proving Grounds teams?
Personally, I think our atmosphere was very bad a month ago. I think even before that, even though we are doing okay, we still didn't have the best atmosphere, so we just change it completely. And now we're just completely different team, just in scrims, in review, just out of game, everything.
I like it, man. I love to hear that kind of shift in mentality. For me, the biggest thing is like how you guys have come together as a whole, right? When you guys are all on the same page, it's a unstoppable machine. How has that synergy been developed for you guys? Has it been a lot of outside of league where you guys are bonding a little bit more as a team, or is it more just tried and true, focus on league, get better as individuals, and come together as a whole?
For sure. I mean, I know personally, I've played with both PCL and Winter in the past, in the past 3 years, and the only 2 players that were new to me are APA and Array. So it was very easy for me to just build synergies with Ian, which is APA, sorry. So I just had to focus on that, and then the rest just came very easily.
All right, well, we do also have to pay attention to where the future is going for Resolve, right? Your next opponents are going to be the winners of Evil Geniuses Academy versus Immortals Academy, which is happening next. Do you have any preferred winners, and who do you think is actually going to take the series?
Personally, I would like to face Immortals, mainly because, all last split, me or us were just competing with Viper and Enda, and then they always, won in 5 games, so it would be fun to have a rematch versus them. And I think favorite, I'm not sure, to be honest. It will be very, very, very aggressive in the top side, so should be a fun series to watch.
It's definitely going to be a fun one. We got that one coming up next. I want to give you one last moment, Fnatic. Do you have anybody you want to shout out, call out, or talk about here before we let you go?
I just want to shout out my teammates, I think a lot of them, they're at least Array and AP are very new players, so always getting that experience where it's like you lose or go home, so you got to show up. So it's telling that to them. And I think they played very well today.
I love it. Gotta love it. Thank you so much, Fnatic, and congratulations on winning, and good luck in your next game.
Thank you.
All right, Joshi. That was only one series of the day, I gotta say, and that was a heck of a Verizon post-match interview. I gotta love always talking Fnatic, hearing the kind of insight to the team and really what makes them tick, right?
Yeah, I mean, he said he was coming in to prove a point, right? They weren't playing quite as well before, and he's like, well, we're still one of the best teams in amateur. We're still looking to show up, and I feel like they definitely proved that today. And now they just start playing against more of the academy teams, depending on who actually ends up winning this one coming out.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be interesting. Well, on the other side of a short little break, we're going to have our next bout of the night. Another best of 3 knockout series. We've got Immortals Academy taking on Evil Geniuses Academy. You're not going to want to miss it.